don't get to leave somebody in the room until an hour and a half goes by and you find him unresponsive. For the first time since Deputy Athens arrived at Reverend Evans' house 3 hours earlier, for the first time, now that he's unresponsive, with his head laid back in a restraint chair, with a spit mask over his face, no longer breathing, for the first time, the Lawrence County Detention Center deputies finally called for medical help. First time. He was pronounced dead an hour and a half later. We will hold these individual deputies accountable. I promise you that. That will be done in a second subsequent lawsuit in federal court. We ain't playing. They got to be held accountable for their actions. More important though, it's got to change now, because those same kids that we dropped off at school this morning in Lawrence County School District may be an inmate down the road at this jail, because mistakes happen. If we don't do what we're doing today by going after Sheriff Reynolds and his lack of training and his lack of supervision, the way he retains cops that in a year and a half have 22 use of force complaints against them in the jail, 3 of which were tasers. I don't know why we're using a taser in the jail. Where are you gonna go? Whose safety is in jeopardy? It's got to change now. It's got to change now. And so we're filing this state lawsuit now. We're coming after Sheriff Reynolds. We're coming after detention center deputies. And they need to make some changes, because this county should not and will not stand for it. Rosalind Hinder Myers, my co-counsel.
Thank you. Good morning. We're seeking justice today. You've heard my co-counsel talk about some of the facts and the situations involved in this incident. But we are seeking justice. It's time that the citizens of Lawrence County, and as well as for other counties across the state of South Carolina, have justice. It's time for people to have justice. It's time for people to understand that law enforcement just can't do whatever they want to do. There are repercussions to taking wrongful actions against citizens. And because of that, because of the situation with Jarvis, we have 5 children who are without their father. We have siblings, his siblings, who are without their brother. And we have his mother, who is without her son and had to bury her son, which she thought that he was going to the hospital and that she would see him again. So today, I'm not going to prolong it any further. I want you to hear from his mother, the Reverend Dr. Catherine Cullen Evans.
Good afternoon. Before I begin, let me thank this wonderful legal team. Let me thank everyone for the support that they've given us through these last 54 weeks throughout the community, the state, and all over the country. Let me thank my family, my brothers and I. My brothers and my children have all stood by us. Let me ask you to pray for one of his siblings who is practically grieving herself to death. And I promise you that should we lose her, Lawrence County may not be legally responsible, but they will be morally responsible. On July 30th of last year, I joined that legion of mothers who have lost children because of police brutality or because they were in the custody of law enforcement. My son is not the first to die in Lawrence County custody, not the second, not the third, mainly due to lack of medical attention. You can research this for yourself, but it is our intention that he that he is the last. No mother should have to bury her child. No 17-year-old should have to stand at his father's funeral and promise his younger brothers that he's going to take care of him. At this time, that 17-year-old is down at Benedict College, struggling with trying to become accustomed to being a freshman in college, trying at the same time to deal with the loss of his father. And then I have to ask myself, what kind of culture creates an atmosphere where human beings who call themselves law enforcement feels comfortable, thinks that it's all right to treat human beings in the brutal manner in which my son was treated. I am not, and hear me well, I am not against all law enforcement. In fact, I've done volunteer work with the last two sheriff administrations. And I know that there are a lot of good officers in Lawrence County's Sheriff Department. But there are officers in all law enforcement agencies that do not belong there. Not only were 3 officers fired, but then I also have to hold those officers who stood around watching what was taking place with my son and did nothing to stop it. They may not be legally responsible, but they are morally responsible. And here in the great state of South Carolina, we have no laws on the books that address excessive force by police officers. There is a bill that's working its way through the system now. Then we have to be careful who it is that we vote for. If you will do your research, there is a newspaper story concerning Sheriff Reynolds' divorce from his first wife, published by Fit News, May 9, 2016. In that newspaper story, it talks about how he put a gun to his wife's head.
That's right.
And told her if she did not get out of the state, he would kill her.
That's right.
So why is he sheriff of Lawrence County? Why is he sheriff of Lawrence County? And again, I want to thank the very, very many people, over 8,000 people who watched my son's funeral online. People have sent support from all over the country, and I say thank you. And if you choose to watch the funeral, it is still online. But I ask Lawrence County, and I apologize to my beloved Lawrence County, out of all of the years, all of the other mothers who have lost their children in the same situation, I have debated and defended them. Never in a million years would I have thought that this would come to Lawrence County out of my house. Lawrence County, we have to make sure that my son is the last one to die in our county jail for lack of medical attention and excessive force. May not be able to charge those officers with excessive force, and I'm not a lawyer, but I still question why cannot they be charged with at least assault. And I ask y'all again to continue to pray for my family, and I pray for those 5 little boys. 2 of them will never remember their father because they're too young. One is not quite 2, and the other one is not quite 3. Pray for those children. It is their gift that we have to worry about now. It is our concern that my son's death, the good that comes out of it, that we change this culture in Lawrence County. And thank y'all so much for allowing me this opportunity.
As you can see, we always say as lawyers that we're only as good as our clients are, and I don't know that we could ask for a better client given the situation that we have now. Reverend Evans is the personal representative of her son's estate. She is the plaintiff in the complaint filed against Sheriff Reynolds in his official capacity. She will be the face of this lawsuit, and she's not going away anytime soon. Neither are we, and we ask for your support. We've got to make a change. It needs to start now.
That's right. One more thing. I also now am asking that all videos, I stand on the shoulder of Emmett Till's mother. All videos of what took place with my son, they are horrible, but the world must see how they treated my son. Secondly, I am asking that a federal investigation take place in the practices and policies of the Lawrence County Sheriff's Department.
Well, most of you, I believe, have seen the filed complaint that was filed last evening, along with the video that was released. It can be found on our website in the news tab. We ask that you circulate that. We ask that you provide that to members of your community who you serve so they can see what may happen to a loved one in the custody of the center if we don't change these policies, this custom, and this culture that's been created. We'll take some brief questions.
What is your message to the Lawrence County Sheriff's Department right now?
You got to change the policies. You got to follow the ones that comply with state and federal laws. Okay, the ones that don't, you've got to pull them out. Okay, I'll give you an example. The Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals, federal court, okay, has said you shall not use a drive-stun taser on an individual for pain compliance, much less one that's already in a restraint chair, much less one that has mental illness, because the body and the mind are separate, okay? That is federal law. That is the law of the land. The Lawrence County Sheriff's Office policy says you should use a drive stun to gain pain compliance. The exact opposite of the law of this country. That's our message. We will give you a chance to fix it. Oh wait, you're not going to fix it on your own? Well, then we'll bring a lawsuit and we'll force you to fix it.
How would you like to see justice served?
Well, in this country, justice is served in many ways, has many forms. Monetary, you've got 5 grieving children who won't ever be able to sit on their father's lap. And change, policy top down, whether that be a change in the elected official, whether that be a change because we've now informed voters of how the custom and culture is being created in this department, whether we change the policies, whether we enforce the law. Justice comes in many forms. Justice comes in the form of public accountability. We as members of Lawrence County, we hold them accountable.
And I'd also like to say that justice is served by making sure that this doesn't happen again.
That's right.
By making sure that law enforcement officers follow the policies that they have, and those that are in violation of federal guidelines and federal statutes and federal rulings should not be in place. And that you cannot hang your hat on something local when you know that that is not in compliance. I mean, there is in some of the jails, this Fourth Circuit ruling hangs in the actual jail itself, where officers can see what the courts have said. And so we want to make sure that no one else runs the fate that Jarvis has run.
All right.
We want to make sure that our people here in Lawrence County, as well as in the state, can have some assurance that when someone calls law enforcement, they're not committing a crime. They think that they're going voluntarily wherever they're going, that they won't end up being a victim or end up being dead. And we also want to make sure that people understand that justice can be done or should be done when there is excessive force in South Carolina. South Carolina is one of a few states that does not have an excessive force statute. We in the legislature have been trying to get that passed for years, and this is yet another example that we need to have a statute like this so that there can be accountability.
There is one more area that I'd like to cover, because eventually it is going to come out. My son was not a saint. My son had a criminal record. My son was on the sexual offenders registry. But he was not convicted of a sexual crime. In fact, one county that he lived in for about a year, a neighboring county, refused to register him because of the circumstances of him being placed on that registry, and advised him to seek an attorney to work towards taking it off. At the time of my son's death, he was working 2 jobs. 3 weeks before he died, by a good friend, he was led to salvation in my front yard. So I'm not worried about where Michael is. But at this time, on the 29th of July, these officers became judge, jury, and executioner. This cannot happen. It cannot happen again. And we're not allow my son to be tried because of his past criminal history nor indiscretions. I do not hide it. I do not deny it. It is what it is. None of us are perfect. We all mess up and make mistakes. But those mess ups and mistakes of mine is what has brought me to who I am today. So I don't want my son tried because at that time he was calling for help. And the charges they relayed against him, one of them I don't understand, which was disturbing the peace. He was in his own home.
Thank y'all very much, okay? Yeah.
Before we turn the microphones and cameras off, ladies, can we get you each one at a time to spell your names for us?
Rosalind Henderson Myers, Rosalyn, Henderson, Henderson,